they've redone Zaraki's flashback. I appreciate that. They could have quite easily just used old footage, but I actually really appreciate them remaking it. Wow, that's awesome. Well, here we are. The battle I'd wager many people have been looking forward to, the absolute most in this core, perhaps more than anything else. If anything is going to top Rukia's emotional struggle against Asnod from last week, it will be this, the titanic clash between Kenpachi Zaraki and Gremmy Thamo. For me, more than anything, I'm curious to see how this fight turns out in the anime, and as well, if they're truly adapting a whopping 9 chapters or not. The preview images released onto the website this week were tactically very cagey, I thought, electing to not show anything after Kenpachi's immediate arrival on the scene, so my interest is definitely piqued to see what they're holding back from us. Can the anime tackle this most imaginative of battles in a way that truly does it justice? After all, we sat with this fight for 2 whole months in the source material, so this has a lot to live up to, and I imagine expectations are very high, so they're going to need to bring out the big guns, so to speak. And as well, can it do so without feeling totally rushed, especially if it is adapting that much content? But this is a fight that I think will benefit greatly from being brought to life in this way on the screen, as of course Gremmy's powers are inherently extremely visual, and Kenpachi always brings the spectacle as well, so I'm hoping for big things here. So, without further ado, let's begin the episode. As always, I'll be watching the episode from the perspective of someone who has read the 1000-Year Blood War arc front to back many times, so expect potential spoilers for the entire arc as we watch along. Also, I'm really hoping that Askin's scene isn't left on the cutting room floor here. But, here we go. Episode 20. How have we managed to reach that number already? Of Bleach the 1000-Year Blood War arc titled, I Am the Edge. But of course, we need to continue first with Isane and Yachiru taking on Gwenael Lee, which I don't think they're going to spend much time on, if I'm completely honest. Gwenael's lucky he's even in the anime at all, I think. Look, he's even getting a splash screen with his name on it and everything, which is obviously kind of weird because he's not actually a Sternritter. By the way, I wonder if Shaz Domino is going to get any kind of a mention in this episode or not, because this is really his last chance to. The music is weird and distorted. It's kind of creepy. I like it because Gwenael is quite a creepy guy, but I always thought his powers were actually very creative. One of the most creative things Gremmy actually comes up with. It's kind of funny that Gremmy's able to put so much. That looks really awesome. When Gwenael erases his existence like that, that's a really fantastic visual effect. What I was saying was, it's really weird. That's creepy as well. I like all of that. That was actually done quite well, though I feel like we are flying through the Gwenael stuff. What I was saying, though, is it's funny that Gremmy puts so much thought and effort into Gwenael, only to just, obliterate him immediately, and then doesn't seem to put that same kind of thought into his actual fight with Zaraki. But we'll see, maybe they'll add something new here. I really like the effect of Gwenael's abilities. That looks really, really nice. It's really cool. But they are, as perhaps expected, kind of blitzing through all of this sequence, which in some ways is very understandable if we really are covering as much as I'm expecting us to be covering this week. But I'm also anticipating seeing Yachiru's Shikai as well. Or Shikai, considering there's a lot going on there. I love that shot of Yachiru unsheathing her blade with the glint in her eyes. That's very, very cool. Yeah, so they're playing out this sequence, although it's going very quickly, and I think they've got rid of some of Gwenael's inner monologues. This is very, very similar to the source material so far. It's very eerie with this green lighting, which is ironic because obviously the green lighting is for a medical purpose, but it's giving everything a very spooky vibe. So far, though, the animation's pretty good, I think. Everything looks really nice. There's Sampa Kenju. Weird. This music doesn't really go with Yachiru dancing with her strange monsters at all, which is supposed to be like a cutesy moment, but the music is very sinister. Yeah, so it's really mostly just the same small hints towards Yachiru's true nature and that something is really off with this Shikai. But so far we haven't had anything new. Oh, here he comes though. Oh, Gwenael kind of reaching out to Gremmy. That's a bit of a again, creepy visual. This is all very kind of spooky at the moment. I think they've done a good job. See, if Gremmy is dying this week, then again, just like in the source material, he exists in almost a total vacuum. And it's weird because he's a major enemy in the arc. He gets one of the biggest fights in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. At least he did appear in the Sternritter meeting in the anime, I suppose. Wow. Gwenael's death was both extraordinarily gruesome, and yet Isane somehow didn't get any blood on her whatsoever. The blood fading away, that's a cool little touch, though. Also, Isane's voice actress is going hard with that. That was a pretty emotional little sequence there. Of course, Rose and Kensei are dead. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm getting quite excited now because that effect on Yachiru's arm was surprisingly twisted, surprisingly gruesome. And like, if that's what we've got kind of coming up, then this fight should be adapted pretty well, I'm hoping. And again, I tell you what, like, it's the same kind of thing that happened in the source material, but it definitely looks a bit more grisly here. Oh, wow. Yeah, see, Yachiru's horrified face. I mean, that all just looks fantastic. But here he is. I'm kind of surprised there's no music or anything to accompany Zaraki's arrival. It feels kind of low-key, considering he's not been around for a while. Again, it's a little bit similar to Komamura's reveal that he was a human. It's not really a big triumphant moment. It's kind of, again, a somber, solemn occasion. Like, you know, Isane reacting to Unohana's death. I always wondered how Zaraki would respond if Isane actually acted on that. He obviously didn't expect her to. But when he says, you know, if you hate me for it, you can kill me. He kind of feels like he's almost like disgusted at himself for what happened. And he would let her, but at the same time, I don't know if he really would. But obviously, Isane would never act on it, as she's obviously pleased to see what happened. She's pleased that Unohana was able to relinquish the title that had burdened her for, you know... There's something kind of weirdly funny about seeing Rose and Kensei fall off like that. Post-invasion Seirete Stone Fort. That's cool that it has a name. Okay, so one small detail I quite like. I like that now they are quite high up. The red light is very intense on them, because obviously they're closer to the actual veil itself. Wow, Gremmy's splash screen felt quite jarring then. It was just sort of slapped in the middle of his sentence. Gremmy is undeniably one of the weirdest characters in the entire series. This soundtrack playing right now is probably my favourite of the new tracks introduced in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. I can't, like, explain it, but, you know. I did an entire video on this sequence, basically, in one of Bleach's best scenes, because it is very good, and I love the way the title is flashing in as we get closer and closer to the blade itself. That's really cool. Yeah, that was really cool. That was awesome. And now the fight will begin in earnest. Zero mention of, like, Shaz Domino or anything like that, which is kind of fascinating. Shrift V. I can't read that, but I can read it says the Visionary and the Vanishing Point. So again, no mention about Shaz whatsoever, which is really kind of weird because Kubo didn't draw him a memorial art or anything. So why even bother including him if you're not going to clarify what he is? Also, I like that the squad members of Squad 11 are still there because, of course, Akon didn't even bother contacting them a couple episodes back. He said to ignore them, which is funny. I really like how the stage looks. I wasn't expecting that, but the red light. See, now this is where the red sky is working quite well, I think, because it does make this look like like a duel in like an arena of blood or something. It's actually quite effective. Yeah, so here we go. I'm hoping for good stuff here. I'm also wondering if they're going to include anything new as well. I'm not sure I'll have much of value to say, as it is really just one big fight, but it's going to be very bombastic. That shot of Gremmy is kind of weird. He looks very squat in that shot. As far as I remember, this is playing out very similarly so far, I think. They haven't... I mean, to be honest, they don't have time to add anything new. I think it's just going to be mostly a case of what do they get rid of. Yeah, so, like, this is what I mean by this is a very visual fight. Like, we've already had lava. We've now had Zaraki trapped in a cube of water. Oh, that's kind of new. That's new. I think Yachiru falling into the chasm. So now, is that implying that Zaraki dives in after her, or does he just fall in? Because in the original chapter, he just sort of falls in, I think. That's kind of cool, though. If he dives in after her, I actually really like that. That's a really nice little character moment. So we're already, I think, now at the end of 574. So we are kind of flying through, but it does work now we're in the actual battle sequence itself. Oh, is this Askin? This is going to be Askin's scene? Yes! Where's his picnic basket? Why is one of his boots white? Oh, they've cut his entire scene. He's just saying his last line. That's a shame. I mean, I appreciate that he's here at all. Him not having his picnic basket, that's a bit of a disappointment. No Pepe, though. Oh. Is anyone going to be disappointed about that? I wonder if that is indicative of them cutting down Pepe's scenes later on in general. See, again, this was one of the things I loved about this fight, was that Zaraki was really kind of starting to take his role as Kenpachi seriously, and the burden of responsibility that came with it. And to some degree, it seemed like he was almost tutoring Gremmy in what it means to be the quote-unquote strongest of your particular faction. Basically being like, you're not acting in the way you really should be. You should be relishing a desire to fight. You should be nurturing this want to do battle. And I liked that, because it was, somewhat introspective for Zaraki, which I thought was really cool to see. And Gremmy is like the inverse of Zaraki. He knows he's the strongest. He kind of goes on about how he's the strongest, but he has no desire whatsoever to prove it or to even let himself be challenged by anyone else. But of course, this fight brings him out of his shell and brings him alive. The guns look pretty cool, actually. That's actually pretty cool. That effect looks really good. I kind of feel like this could do with a little more bombast. Like, where's the crazy music and stuff, Visually, it looks really good. But I think we could do with just a bit of an explosive soundtrack at the same time. Certainly when things heat up with Nozarashi, I imagine we'll probably get all of that. Gremmy's voice actor's doing a good job as well. Honestly, the voice actors just really have been bringing it in this adaptation. Kenpachi getting crushed by a gigantic stone hand. Yeah, so far this has all been the same as it was in the source material. I really do love the kind of... Oh, there's... What can you see in their eyes again? I really do love the old school Bleach blood spurts as he gets slashed. That sort of thing is... Again, like, it did look like this in the chapter, to be fair, but it feels weirdly nostalgic. Yeah, see, that's cool. Gremmy really freaking out. Gremmy seems to freak out more here than he did in the original chapter, I feel like. But perhaps that's just the power of actually being able to hear his voice. That's really cool, though. I feel like I will never truly understand this character, though. Gremmy, that is, because I don't understand how he dies. I don't understand how he loses when he can imagine anything. Presumably they're not going to change the ending of this fight. I mean, we're nearly there, because we're almost at the meteor already, which is crazy. See, look there. I'm really surprised there's no mention of Shaz. When he said I can create life, and we see Gwenael, get a little flicker in there of Shaz, just to... But he's just been completely forgotten about, just like he was in the original chapters. Okay, the meteor looks cool. That's really cool shot. That sort of thing looks fantastic. And the lighting, again, looks brilliant here. I love the light washing over Kenpachi like that is really cool. I think they've skipped over everyone's reactions. Wow, okay. So is that the Shakon Maku being obliterated, or is that just the Quincy's red veil? Is the red veil gone? Yeah, they've skipped over everyone's reactions. No Basby, no Askin, no Hashwolf, no Renji, nothing like that. Bit of a shame. This music's cool, though. That looks awesome. Gremmy looks really cool here. That's great as well. Here we go. Yeah, see Zaraki flying towards the meteor. It looks really cool. That looks fantastic, to be honest. I like this music as well. It's really building. See, that's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier. I would have loved to have had a bit more of that when Gremmy was blasting his assault rifles and stuff, but they've redone Zaraki's flashback. I appreciate that. They could have quite easily just used old footage, but I actually really appreciate them remaking it. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, that was really cool. The way the meteor was just annihilated like that was very, very satisfying. That blade swipe going up the middle and just completely splitting it in two. Here it is. That's a great shot. I feel like what can you see in their eyes is a good track to use for Nozarashi's reveal. It is generally... the veil just closed up again. That's interesting. It is generally associated, I would say, with big hulking brutes. So it does kind of work, especially with Nozarashi looking absolutely colossal. But yeah, I thought that whole sequence with the meteor... I mean, the meteor came and went really quickly, I think. But it was still handled pretty well. I mean, this looks great. This looks fantastic, to be honest. That's cool. Galaxy Room. Oh, he hasn't named it this time. Okay, that's a shame. Yeah, see, in my opinion, this is an issue I have with the fight that's present in the original source material as well, is that this is when I think it gets really good, and it's going to be over in like a minute. Because it just gets crazy now. Like, this is when all bets are off. I love the sky closing around Zaraki, but he manages to get Gremmy just before it shuts him out completely. A lot of people used to think that was Kenpachi cutting the sky, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I think that galaxy room closes around him, but he manages to cut Gremmy just before it does, which allows him to get out. I could be wrong. But yeah, like, that sequence is so good. That sequence is so good when Kenpachi comes out of the darkness of space, but Gremmy has a bomb on him, and then he has loads of bombs, and there's a massive blast. I love all of that, but the fight's just kind of over now. Oh, this is, what is this? Soundscape to our door, is that? Oh, I love the visual of his fingers just splitting. That's cool. Yeah, that is cool. I like that. I'll be completely honest, I was never the biggest fan of how this fight ended. But it definitely works better with the added visuals, with the lighting and the music and stuff like that. Is that going to be the end? Yeah, okay. Judging by how much time there is left, there's probably an after-credits scene. But that was pretty cool. I thought that was really cool. I mean, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to cover. And it's a tall order, that fight, I think, as well. There's a lot going on in that battle. It's very visceral. There's a lot of, creativity, a lot of imagination, a lot of some crazy abilities. And I think for the most part, they did a pretty good job. They did have to cut some of the extraneous parts. It was a bit of a shame, I think, that they cut the... They could have at least kept in, like, 1 or 2 reactions to the meteor. They kept in the random Shinigami, I guess. But, like, seeing even the named characters freaking out about it was really impactful, because you realised that they were all scared of this meteor coming and just annihilating them all. And I loved it. And it's a bit of a shame as well that they got rid of the Shinigami and the Soldat just running together. Because at that point, the war didn't matter. You know, it was every man for himself. So that's a bit of a shame, but we can talk about all that sort of thing a little more in the review. On the whole, though, I think the fight was handled really well. I wanted to mention it, but I was caught up in the moment too much. I loved how, as he sliced the meteor, Zaraki kind of, like, reverted back to his child self. I'm assuming that's supposed to reference the elation that he's currently feeling, reminds him of back then, but also he has unlocked that level of power again now. I just spoke for the entire ending, by the way, but here we go. So I wonder then if this is going to end with the arrival of the Bambis. Yes, the death scene itself is quite good, but I do just wonder why Gremmy can't imagine his body to be repaired again. I think we're supposed to think that he's, like, just exhausted all of his power, I guess. This is a good moment, though, like... Gremmy's an interesting character. Whoa, the brain just hit the eject button. I don't think we're going to get any additional exposition on the brain, are we? Gremmy disappearing that's a really nice visual effect, though. Again, I like that he's kind of just turning into Quincy Reiatsu. That's really cool. A part of me is, like, in shock that they've done the entire Gremmy fight in one episode. However, if that means that there's more time for an extended Zero Division Schutzstaffel fight, I'm all for it. And interestingly, this fight is kind of a watershed moment, I think. That's actually quite a nice way to end the episode. Yeah, I think that's a Candice poem, that's cool. I think that's a really nice way to end the episode. It's very thoughtful, very quiet, kind of moving, the headless star. Next week could be a crazy episode. I'm going to talk about that briefly now. So yeah, on the whole, I think that was really good. It was pretty simple. It was just a big fight, a bit like last week, which is kind of what we were expecting. But I think on the whole, they handled the fight really well. They treated it with respect. The voice actors did a kick-ass job. Nozarashi's reveal itself was, again, handled really, really well. I think some parts did fly by very quickly. The meteor could have been given a little more prominence, I think. We could have hung with that a little bit longer, because it did kind of come and go. And again, this notion that Gremmy just exists in a weird vacuum is still here, I think, even though he appeared in the Sternritter meeting. It would have been nice to have maybe got a little bit of extra content here and there, perhaps indicating his relationship with Little Toto, which is hinted at in, I think, Can't Fear Your Own World, if I remember rightly. A tiny flashback to that would have been nice. If I remember rightly, maybe Askin mentions this. I need to go back and rewatch it. There was no mention, though, unless Askin says it, of Gremmy being locked up, which is intriguing. That kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. and explains why he was out at the Sternritter meeting, perhaps, if they're getting rid of that completely. But yeah, the reason why this is kind of like a watershed, almost like a jumping off point for me, this episode, is because up until now, I feel like we've kind of known how the anime would go. We knew how they would portray things. Obviously, we didn't know directly. We didn't know exactly how things would look and play out and stuff like that. But as far as the second invasion goes, we're now entering the second half, and I think this is where all bets are off. I think this is where things might start to be changed quite, maybe drastically, maybe not. I have no idea, but I think if anything is going to be changed a fair bit, it's going to be around here. When the zombies start coming in, Pepe, Giselle, all that sort of thing, we could get some changes. We might not. But of course, we're also inching closer to the stuff in the Royal Palace. Maybe next week is when a potential Ichigo versus Uryu fight could happen, or the week after. The Headless Star being the name of the episode makes me think it could be next week. So yeah, kind of, this is where we're kind of, in my opinion, starting to tread into uncharted waters. And that's very, very exciting, I think. But yeah, I mean, as far as this episode went, we'll obviously get a bit more into that in predictions and stuff in the review. But as far as this episode went, I was actually very happy with that, pleasantly happy. Despite the amount of content they covered, I thought they did an admirable job overall. I think it looked really, really good. They did Gremmy justice, they did Kenpachi justice, they even did characters like Gwenael justice, and even though that scene did go past very, very quickly, at least they included it. You know, that was kind of the main thing for me. So, yeah, on the whole, very happy, I think. Very happy. Yeah, really, really liked it. As always, I need to kind of go away and decompress, rewatch the episode two more times at least, probably, and then get all of my thoughts out in my review. But, yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, what did you think of episode 20, I Am the Edge? Did you enjoy the battle between Kenpachi and Gremmy? Crucially, did it live up to your expectations? I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. What was your favourite moment of their fight? Do please let me know. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already for more Bleach videos like this every single week. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up as well, as it really does help me out. But yeah, I think that's it. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.